In this tutorial, I'm going to teach you about functions, which are a really useful feature of Python and most programming languages. And what they do is they allow you to create reusable blocks of code called a function. And you can use that function anywhere in your program just by typing its name. So by typing the name of how are you with the brackets there, you can basically run all of this code again. Okay. I've done the same thing with favcolor. And these bits are where we're defining the function. So we write def, and you see that's got blue text now, or different color text. And then I've chosen a name for my function. I've called the function the how are you function. Right, so within how are you, the computer asks them a question, how are you, and it stores that in a variable called var underscore how feeling. And there's a load of selection, if and else and elifs, basically testing what they've said. And there's a couple of possible responses, and I've told the computer what to say if they say these things. And then otherwise, the final bit for the else, it says something like, funny, I didn't know humans could be, and then it's repeating back to them what they'll have typed. And now I've got another function here called fav underscore color. So we always type def before we name a function. And again, it's a little question and some selection underneath. So this is really where we start getting into the idea of how to use Python to create artificial intelligence or to create chatbots, which is overall the aim of the course. So once you've written that out, I'll let you pause your screen, and you're going to type that out as you see it. I'm going to move on to explaining how we use these. So with these two functions, they are named, and each named function contains some executable code which will get carried out when we call its name. So underneath the second one, because you can have as many of these functions as you want, by the way, and I do want you to build your own. Underneath the second one, I'm just going to type some hashtags, and I'm going to say main program. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to call the how are you. Alright, and then I'm going to call the favorite color. So this, and you make sure you put the brackets at the end, these two functions here are being called in the main part of the program. And what we're doing is we're executing the code that's contained in them. So if I run this now, how are you? If I type fine, funny, I didn't know humans could be fine. Tell me your favourite colour, red. Why do all humans like red? It's such an angry colour. Okay, so you might think to yourself, well, that's weird because they're in that order anyway. So if I swap the order around, you'll see what I mean. So put fav color first, and then how are you? You'll see that these are being called in the order I choose. Tell me your favourite colour, red. Why do humans like red? How are you? Bad. Sorry to hear you're feeling bad. So the computer's asking me questions, I'm responding, and the questions and the responses to my responses are all being carried out within these functions, and I'm choosing which order the functions get carried out. And I could do fav color again, or I could ask how are you, and it will ask me how I am again. Red, bad, bad. See, so it's actually doing it as many times as I've declared. If I don't use those, if I just run the program, nothing happens, because all the code that I've created is inside these functions, and these functions will only run when I call them to run. Okay. By the way, the hashtags and words main program there, just for me as a coder, I always find it's helpful to separate the main program out from all the functions I've created. So if I put those in again, let's have a little bit of fun with this then. So we'll use the while loop and random that you've already used before in the previous tutorials. So I'm going to just type in import random at the very top. Okay. And then in my main program, I'm going to have a while loop. I'm going to set it with a condition, so var underscore quit equals no, while var underscore quit is not equal to y, then we're going to do this stuff here. Test I'm going to call this var rand num equals in random dot rand range 1 to 3. Okay, so it's either 1 or 2. If var rand num is equal to 1, we're going to run the fav color function. Else, we're going to run the how are you function. And because we're in a while loop, I'm going to give the user the option to quit. Alright, so when I run this program now, unless I've done something dreadfully wrong, it'll ask me my favourite colour, red. I don't want to quit, no. Let's try again. How are you? Fine. No. How are you? Bad. Keeps asking me how I am. Oh, now it's asking my favourite colour. So what you can do here now with all the stuff I've taught you, start creating what we call a chatbot, and it's essentially a computer program that asks you questions and responds to the way you say things. So we're using functions, and we're using a while loop full of tests based on random numbers. Depending on what the random number is, it will call a different function. So it seems like the computer's generating random sort of conversation. The more of these functions you have at the top, the more convincing your chatbot will be as a piece of AI, artificial intelligence. And that's really the aim of it. So following from all the things we've done now, you're going to start building your own chatbot, your own artificial intelligence in Python, and we'll assess how much of that you get complete. So obviously I've done the first 2 functions. You're going to come up with loads of different functions for different questions you could ask, and there'll be a while loop in your main program which will just generate random numbers. Remember to have as many random numbers as you want, and each random number will cause a different function to be called, and it almost feels like the robot's asking you questions of its own free will. Okay, brilliant. So that's how to use functions, and then what I've done is I've combined them very quickly with while loop and random numbers and selection, the if else and elif if you want to add some elifs in, which will give you a chatbot, and that's the aim of the course.